Welcome to episode 3. On this episode, I want to do something a little bit different. I want to have a personal touch on this, and I want to tell you guys about my story of how I fixed my relationship with food. So rest assured, in this video, I'm going to give you guys some plug and play takeaway on your nutrition and, I guess principles and markers to help you guys with your nutrition. It's on my whiteboard. But first, I just want to go a little bit deeper into why I find nutrition to be one of the most important things. And yes, I love bodybuilding. Yes, I love being in shape. But honestly, it's not all about that. That's how it started for me. But what I've learned along the way is that I owe everything to being able to find or fix my relationship with nutrition and being able to learn on how I can actually, control how my body looks, how my body moves, how my mind thinks, how I regulate my emotions just through respecting myself and putting good nutrients into my body. So knowing what to eat. So enough of that, let's get into the story. Story actually goes way back. So it started, as a kid, I used to live in the Philippines. That's where I was born. Moved to Australia, and the transition wasn't easy for me. It was a very confusing time. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how the kids here operated. So it made me spend a lot of time in solitude, and it made me spend a lot of time trying to figure out what I liked, who I was. And for years, it was very confusing. It was very hard. I tried a bunch of sports. I tried everything. And what I found was I could actually pick things up very, very quickly. And I did have some physical skill. I could pick up sports quickly. I could become decent at them as well without looking back now, without putting too much effort. However, I could just never fall in love with one. I couldn't spend more than 2 to 3 years at one sport without trying to do another thing on the back end or on the side, or completely switching sports year to year. And what changed is the year, I think I was 15, when I found bodybuilding, when I found training in the gym. So our school had an elective where you could go to the local gym down the road, and we would spend the last hour of the day there. And I knew that this thing actually interested me because, I'll be honest, I skipped a lot of my classes, and this one I just wasn't skipping. I was, even though you had to put effort into the gym, I just kept going back. And it didn't take long until I was hooked. Started to go on YouTube, started to watch, Arnold, started to watch some old bodybuilding videos, but also the whole Ziz era with Jeff Side and all those boys. To me, that was really interesting, and it sparked a bit of an addiction, honestly. Lifting to me became my life very, very quickly from the age of 15 to 16. Now, it wasn't until I was about 17 that I started to realize I actually had to eat right to get the results that I wanted, as much as I was training in the gym. I hit a plateau after a year or two. I reckon, as most people can relate watching this, and I started to realize I need to eat food. So now how I went about this wasn't the best way. I was just being told if I wanted to grow, I needed to eat more food. So I just started to eat more food. Now, being a 17-year-old, maybe even 16 at the time, I didn't have too much money. So I was, spending probably $20 to $50 per week on food, and I had to eat a lot of food. So it was just eating bread, it was just peanut butter. I was going to KFC a couple times per week. So my idea of nutrition wasn't that great. It was just trying to eat a lot of dirty meals down so I could bulk up, right? Now, that didn't go too well. I started to just feel terrible. I started to just gain a lot of weight, and I wasn't sure if it was muscle or not. But something was happening, and I didn't know any different, so I just kept going down that route. Now, that paired with me starting to drink pretty consistently on weekends, and I know that goes against training, but again, I didn't have anyone to tell me otherwise. I just thought that, hey, I was, doing this thing that I wanted to do Monday to Friday. All my friends were drinking and doing other stuff on the weekends that I was getting involved with, and that paired with no sleep, paired with substances, paired with bad foods, it just put me down in the spiral, and it put me in a position where, I felt my worst. So body image, self-love, everything like that just went downhill very, very quick. Now, I got desperate because all my life, spending a lot of time in solitude, I always kind of knew who I was. And even though I knew I was on this journey or this path of trying to really find out who I was or what I liked, I still had a connection with myself, and I still had self-trust that I would find what I wanted to do. And I was very blessed. I had that self-awareness at a very young age, probably due to how I grew up. But for once in my life, being about 18, I felt really, really lost. I was doing a job that I didn't like. I was partying every weekend very hard, and I just was eating shit food. So I just decided to put my name down into a bodybuilding competition. So I did this all through the back end of the last months of being 18, and I think it was early 19-year-old when that comp happened. But this forced me to pretty much go all in. So I went from someone who was drinking every weekend, doing substances, eating like that dirty bulk shit food, no idea with nutrition, and as soon as I put my name down for that competition, something inside me just woke up. It was like I flicked a switch. I stopped going out on weekends. I started studying as well. I pulled my head in at work. Still didn't enjoy what I was doing, but I just, because I stopped going out, it wasn't so bad and it wasn't so hard, and I started to do my work better, which gave me a bit more confidence, made me have a better relationship with my bosses and my workmates. And I started to just YouTube as much as I can with nutrition. I was watching preps, I was watching bodybuilders go through their food and what they ate, and this led me to eating pretty much chicken, rice, broccoli, basa, hoki, like just all the basic sort of bodybuilder foods, old school type foods too. And it just went from like 0 to 100. It went from doing all the wrong things to like eating like as strict as you can. But this like got me crazy results. I ended up doing this show, I ended up getting first in all my age groups. I literally still have all my trophies and all my medals from that show, probably the most medals and trophies I got from that show. And it was a massive turning point in my life because I just got a massive sense of like self-confidence. I was actually good at something, and it was something that I loved. And I remember it clear as day, the feeling of getting off that stage, getting first everywhere, and just like knowing that all that hard work actually paid off. Now, after that competition, I kind of got back to a place where I felt a little bit lost because I had realized that I went all into this competition, and I had realized that it wasn't necessarily the healthiest thing, right? And it wasn't sustainable. So somewhere along the way, going from about 19 to 21, maybe even 22, that's when I just went on this massive journey of really understanding food, really understanding what to have, when to have it, why to have it, what it does for you, not only at a physical level, but a mental and emotional level. And just expanding my knowledge from doing courses, getting mentors, getting coaches. And honestly, like I haven't looked back since. And it was around maybe 2021, that's when I started to really get my life together. It was when I started my business. I had already done a few courses by now. I had my certified fitness trainer, and my next competition was by 21. So I did another one by 21. A little bit of a harder competition. I still got second and third. Wasn't the first that I was going for, but this time around it was a little bit easier, and it was a little bit, I guess, healthier too. I started to incorporate more healthier foods, more micronutrients, and I started to have just more of a variety of food choices and not eat the same thing meal after meal. And then going on to 24, I competed again. Again, getting a little bit worse with my placings, I think a couple of thirds, couple of fourths, but the caliber just keeps going up with the years as I went on. And I did take a few years off bodybuilding and building muscle to pursue a few other things, athletic development, but also powerlifting. But even through those sports as well, I had to really navigate food and how to fuel for performance and how to use food to actually get better outcomes. If it's field-based sports, if it's sprinting, if it's running long distance, or if it's like lifting a heavy 1 rep max, there's a certain way that you should go about eating your food that's going to help you, propel forward in your performance in these things. Now, as I started to move further into business, my mindset, coaching people, mentoring people, getting mentored myself, really building out a team of coaches, but also regulating my emotion to make big, hard choices, especially having a partner and my family. I realized that when I looked after myself and when I ate the right foods that I learned from in my younger years, that's when I felt my best. That's when I could make good decisions. That's when I was showing up as the best leader. That's when I was, excelling in my bodybuilding. And my whole life just gets better. And when I do, have a big night, eat the shit food on Sunday, or, for whatever reason, if I don't prepare myself with good meals and I have a couple of bad days where I'm eating bad foods, that's when I'm feeling my worst, and that's when I'm making the worst decisions. That's my story for today. I hope that someone can relate to that, or if not, I hope you can get inspired by that, because I didn't necessarily hear a story like this when I was growing up. I kind of heard the extremes, and it took me experimenting myself a lot of years, a lot of courses, a lot of trial and error to kind of figure this out. So I hope someone can watch this video and go, okay, cool, like nutrition's an important thing. I'm going to put effort into it because that is the goal of this video. So now we're going to go into the whiteboard, and I'm going to help you guys, okay, create principles and markers around your nutrition so you can start feeling your best. So if you haven't noticed, here's our little mascot for today. But just real quick before we do get into the whiteboard, I want to explain that, when it comes to nutrition, there's this massive, expectation, or this massive trend or understanding that, it's all about macros, right? If it fits your macros, that's pretty popular these days. Now, yes, that's going to help you get started, but it only addresses one thing, okay? A few things. But I do want to give this thought process to you in an easily digestible way, okay? And it starts with calories. If you focus just on calories, if you are in a surplus, you're going to go up in body weight. If you focus on calories, but you're in a deficit, you're going to go down in body weight, okay? And that is the main point of calories, or how to think about calories. Now, when we think about macronutrients, that's going to dictate your body composition, so how you look. Less body fat, more muscle mass, or vice versa, depending on how you play your macros, but also your performance. Okay, so it's how you use the different macronutrients as fuel to dictate how you perform for a sport or for whatever endeavor. Now, micronutrients, the way to think about this is micronutrients help your body become more efficient and feel better. So in my opinion, you should never just focus on one thing, but you should actually focus on all those three things with the intention of getting the outcome that you want to achieve. Okay, so with that being said, let's go on the whiteboard. All right, so for protein, these are my general recommendations. The overall sort of health recommendations tend to be a little bit wider, but in my experience, people undereat protein like quite a lot, and especially in this day and age when it's so easy to get your protein in, where they're making snacks, they're making drinks that are higher in protein left, right, and center. I actually tend to stick to the higher ranges for most people, okay? Unless you have a kidney problem that needs to be, assessed and managed elsewhere and go to your doctor, then this is gonna be pretty good ranges for you. So for the protein in a deficit, 2 to 2.5 grams per kilo of body weight. All right, and I'm gonna do the same for a surplus. If it's a high surplus and the training demand isn't that high or that hard, then I could potentially go a little bit lower, because the fats and the carbs are gonna make up a lot of that surplus, and there won't be as much of a need for muscle retention. But if you're someone who's training very hard, say 5 times per week, and the goal is to keep aggressively overloading, keep breaking down muscle tissue, and to repair that muscle, then I would stick to the same, okay? 2 to 2.5. Now, with the deficit in fats, obviously we're going to have to take some energy from somewhere, so it's going to majorly come down to carbohydrates and fats. It's going to be 0.6 to 1 gram of fat per kilo of body weight. Now, females tend to need a little bit more because it helps them managing their hormones, their stress levels, but also cognitive function, just because for males, we generally have a pretty stable hormonal system, whereas females, as you know, with the menstrual cycle, goes up and down. So I like to play it safe with the females to go at least close to 1 gram per kilo of body weight when it comes to the fats, all right? But it can go down to 0.6. Any lower than 0.6 and it might come with a little bit of detriment effects and you won't be feeling too good. Now, with the surplus, we generally go from 0.8 to 1.5 with the fats, okay? The rest of the calories then go to carbohydrates, okay? Ensuring that you are in a 10 to 30% decrease of calories from your maintenance. Now, I wouldn't go all the way to 30 unless you're someone who is planning to have a bit of a game plan in a deficit where you're gonna go in and out of the deficit in maybe stages where you could go straight to a 30% decrease in calories. Maybe you might spend 4 to 6 weeks there, and it is quite aggressive. Then you might pull yourself out and do a bit of a maintenance phase for just physiological and psychological break, and then go back into a deficit. Whereas if you're looking for something a little bit more sustainable, maybe you're wanting to be in a deficit for like 12, 16, 20 weeks, I would just start at 10% and slowly chip your way down to 30. I wouldn't go too far less than 30. Sometimes like in competition preps and stuff like that, at the back end I'll get them 50% lower in calories, but it's not very maintainable or sustainable, okay? For the surplus, so it's going to be the same. So once you've figured out how many meals you're gonna have, you've figured out your increase of calories from maintenance, and the rest you're gonna do carbohydrates. Now, the only difference that I like to put into a surplus is a massive, focus on your peri-nutrition, okay, which is the nutrition around your training window, where you need to perform. So for example, if we are having maybe 300 grams of carbs for the day, then you want to spend about 150 grams of carbs in and around your peri-nutrition, meaning pre-workout, intra, and post. And for today's video, to make it easy, you can think of that as 50 grams pre, 50 grams intra, and 50 grams on post-workout. So with this one, only doing 5 to 20% increase, you'll notice it's different. Here's about 10 to 30% decrease. As if you're training hard and if you're someone who wants to stay relatively lean but put on lean tissue, you can go just above maintenance. All right? I've even helped some people stay in maintenance and build muscle. Just depends. If you're a newbie, if you're a person who's new to training, you can get a lot of growth and stimulus from being in maintenance, just because training is such a new thing for your body to adapt to. But for most people, after a while, they may have to go into a 10% increase, 15, 20, etc. I don't really, give out or recommend going over 30% of an increase. If I do, again, if it's for my serious lifters who are bodybuilders on the back end of their off season, where you're trying to really elicit any more growth in that last sort of 4 to 6 weeks. And these people are generally the people who stay quite lean. All right, if you push past 30%, increase on a surplus and you spend too much time there, you're probably just going to accumulate too much body fat. So guys, I hope that's helped today. If any of this was confusing, I know there's a little bit more numbers on the board, there's a little bit more, technicalities, but if this helped you in some way, but just not all the way, send me a message. I'm happy to, help you over the line and get you, a plan that's going to help you in a day-to-day life and to get you to progress to where you need to go. Okay, guys, as always, if you could please subscribe. I'm going to make more of these videos. The next video is going to be all about training, so stick around for that one. And thanks for watching.